Hi folks, welcome to the Restoration Couple. In today's video I'm going to show you how I finally got around to building my dream office desk from this old slab of elm. Around a year ago I spotted this elm slab that was for sale on eBay and it had been sat in storage for a couple of decades, and I knew immediately that I wanted to build a desk from it. But it sat there gathering dust in the corner until finally I've just got around to flattening it. Now this was a previous video a week or two ago which I'll link to now, but what I needed to do was build this jig with the router and just flatten off and take the worst of it, so we were pretty much flat across the whole slab, and then we could begin the sanding. Before we get started, I'm actually editing this video right now on the desk that you're just about to watch being built. But before we do that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, head down there now, click subscribe, remember to click the bell symbol, and that will make sure that you never miss one of our videos and you get a notification every time. Enjoy the video. Now I did start out with the random orbital sander, but it just wasn't going to be quite enough. So I switched to the belt sander, which would take off the worst of the marks left from the router. So I've worked my way from 80 to 120 at this point, and I'm making sure that I've got any of the imperfections out. Now there's a few options for the live edge part of the desk. The bark is off, and that's kind of the important bit. Unless you're going to stabilize it with lots of epoxy, it's best to remove it. But then I wanted to clean it up, and the best thing was to use a wire wheel on the drill, and that would get anything that was ingrained in the coarse grain of the live edge out and give us a bit of texture to contrast with the top. Being a desk and knowing how much time I sit with my arms resting over that edge, I wanted to make sure that there was a smooth contour on that front leading edge, because you didn't really want anything too jaggedy there. So I didn't want to take away too much of the texture, but I have just taken it and put a little bit of a radius on there. Right, this is where we are with the slab desk project. The underside of this is actually the top. This is the bottom, looking at it. The top surface I've given a good sanding. I'm taking that to 120. This is the side that won't be seen. It needs to be flat where the legs are going to mount, which it is. And we did that using the jig with the router sled. What I didn't want to do is there's a couple of real low spots, which would, in order to get those gone completely, would have meant taking another 5, maybe even 8 mil off the thickness of the whole slab, and it would just lose that sort of look on the front edge. So I've just left those where they are, but I am sanding them just to kind of get the worst of the marks out. Right, now we're looking at the top, flipped it over. What we can do with these knots, we'll fill those, sand them nicely, and they're got to be stable. I mean, this is decades old, so I can't imagine there's going to be too much movement. The back edge here is pretty much straight. It's a shame it isn't live on both sides, but this is a desk and it is going up against a wall. Our slab narrows slightly. We're at that 750, and the widest part up here is 800. So that's me being fussy, really. What I can do is when we cut this straight edge now, just gonna tweak it in. Now, having done this cut at the back, I just felt it was a bit simple and clunky. So I wanted to try something new by undercutting on an angle, just to give something a little bit different to the desk and give it a bit of a more of a stylish finish on the edges and on the back. Not that that really gets seen. About 2/3 of the cut has gone all the way through, but there's obviously a tiny bit of variation because we didn't flatten the underside of this quite as much. And there's not much I can do about that. So instead what I'm going to do is just go through and finish that cut. We're going to be sanding and planing it anyway, so we shouldn't have an issue. Right, now we've got that 45-degree undercut. I'm going to measure in 10mm all the way along and do a vertical cut, which will give us our vertical part before the chamfer underneath. First up, whilst we're still set on the angle, I'm going to recut this end. I've taken the framing square, done 90 degrees off the back, so the end's going to be square to the back. Come in a little bit to get rid of this nasty bit there and cut off the broken end. House full of kids around, that's not something you want to be putting on your furniture. I'm a little bit excited, that worked pretty well. So let's flip it over. These are still tacky, so I'm going to stick it on a couple of strips of oak offcuts. Well, that's all the sanding done. I've taken it to 240-ish. The low spots, there's still a few saw marks, but they're kind of smooth, if that makes sense. Anyway, good wipe down now. A lot of people stain elm, apparently, from my quick Googling. I don't really want it to be too dark, and judging by me putting that clear epoxy on the underneath, that darkened it quite a bit on its own. So I'm going to do a clear coat, or a couple of clear coats of Osmo Polyexol on the bottom. Right, I've got an open tin of satin because I've been doing the doors and the porch. No way that brush is going to fit in there, so we're just going to have to pour. Wow, look at that. So we finally got around to it, finally got the desk done. It only took a year or so to dig out this slab again. Everything went pretty much to plan. The nice thing about having those legs was they were just simple and easy and ready to fit. Yes, in hindsight, I could have made my own and welded something up, but really these were perfect for what I needed. I spend quite a bit of time up here in the evenings editing, and also if I'm mounting and framing prints for my photography orders, then it's quite nice to be able to use this at the height where I can stand at it. Couple of little points. When I'm putting it up to the standing point, it looks like it's just about to tear my screen off the wall, which wouldn't be good. So what I've actually done is opened it up and removed the little button on the inside for the up. So I've still saved this as my number 3 function, but it can never go higher than this unless I opened it up and got the button. That just means if the kids came up, started playing around, nothing too disastrous can happen. Now, one nice thing about live edge furniture, especially if you're buying the legs, is that it doesn't take many tools, and you could probably get away with just sanding the marks. You wouldn't get it as flat and as even, but you could do away with that router stage and just jump straight to sanding. You could still get a nice finish. It might be a bit more rustic, but don't be put off. I'd say it's quite a good beginner's project. Now, I do get asked quite often about my setup and workflow for producing YouTube videos. A little bit different because I'm a photographer during the week, so a lot of this setup is for that, and it just is a bit of a dual purpose. But if that is something of interest, then perhaps I can just do a short walkthrough of my setup. There's usually a lot more cables around, and that's one thing I need to sort out, just the cable management and everything to keep it all simple. Last week I had the electricians come in and finish some second fix stuff up here in the loft conversion, and the dado trunking that goes under this desk houses all the sockets and everything, so I'm going to tie into that, put all of my printers and servers the other side of the room, so I can try and keep things a little bit more simple over here. But I think we're now there. I need to crack on and edit this video on the desk build, because I need to do this outro to finish this. But there we go. Any questions, leave them down in the comments section below. Any products I used, if I can find them, I will try and link them down in the description. But that is it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up. But of course, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.